Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Algorithm. And today, my special guest is the Jada Bell with the Jada Bell Podcast. And we are going to discuss no contact today. So let the audience know what about you, your platform, and just tell us about what you got going on.
Hi, I'm the Jada Bell Podcast. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. I just talk a lot about marriage, traditional roles, values, being a conservative, a little bit of like politics and stuff, and just trying to bring back like what the roles are of a woman and a man in society. So that's really just the basics of my platform. But recently I have talked a lot about narcissism, BPD, mental health issues, where those things are rooted from, what it kind of looks like to deal with somebody with narcissistic tendencies and traits. And yeah, just helping people with mental health issues as well. That's something that I did struggle with in my earlier age, and it was due to feminism. It was due to not being in a traditional role. It was due to a lack of understanding God's role for me, and through developing that, I've changed a lot mentally. So yeah, that's my platform. That's what I got going on, and I'm actually excited about this because it can really tap into like narcissism a lot. That's a big term. We throw that around so much. I think it needs to be evaluated. It needs to be dissected a little bit better than people just throwing that word on people and labeling that. And actually, the root of it is really just insecurity and pride. So I'm trying to help people to have a better understanding of other people before throwing words around. So I'm really excited about this conversation because it's like the no contact is a little bit of like the narcissistic parent, really, that you're going on contact with.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. I got a video. I want you to break this down.
Today that my mother raised me, but I never had a relationship with her. And there's a difference between being raised and having an actual relationship, because raised means I put clothes on your back, shoes on your feet. I make sure you get to school, you look presentable. I teach you what I know, but I don't necessarily foster a healthy relationship with you. I don't get to know you. You don't get to know me. We kind of just coexist in this world because I'm your mother and you are my child. And I was thinking about the fact that a person asked me recently, what is your relationship with your parents like? And I said, well, I'm not that close to my parents like I would want to be, but this is not because I didn't want to be close. This is because the only way that I can be close is if I tolerate disrespect, or if I tolerate being used, or if I tolerate being half loved. And because I'm in a season where I'm learning to love myself and learning what healthy boundaries are, I'm not even allowed to tolerate no type of trauma or disrespect from the people who I call my parents, right? But when you tell people you don't really have a close relationship with your parents, they often look at you like you're the problem, as if, as their child, it's your responsibility to keep that relationship intact, like relationships are not a two-way street. I'm saying all this to say a lot of us were not relationshiped, we were raised. A lot of us didn't learn to be seen or validated or understood. We learned to be raised and to not ask no questions and to just tolerate whatever.
If at any point you want to stop on any part of the video and jump in, let me know and I'll stop it.
Okay.
Whatever happens, right? And people often wonder why I'm so close with my friends, right? Because my friends, they have shown me what genuine unconditional love is, right? And I feel like when you have family, family is almost like an excuse to just do whatever you want and be able to get away with it, right? Your family kind of will just disrespect you, abuse you, treat you any kind of way under the premise of, well, that's your mom, that's your dad, that's your sister, that's your brother. They feel like they don't have to treat you right. They don't have to respect your boundaries. They don't have to see you. They don't have to support you. You are family. They don't have to do anything for you except be related to you. But here's the thing. Relatives don't mean relationship. Just because they're related to you doesn't mean they have a relationship to you. And this is why when you have people in your life that meet you as a stranger, but then soon become your friend, you begin to feel like that's your actual family. But I'm saying this to say, y'all gotta stop shaming people who don't have good relationships with their parents. It's not on the child. 9 times out of 10, if a parent and a child has a messed up relationship, it's something the parent did or didn't do. And we don't like to say that, right? But the child is only as much as its parent and the one that's bringing them up, right? And I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash from the moms and dads who feel like I did the best that I can, but sometimes the best that you could do was still not good enough. Sometimes the best that you could do was still trash. Sometimes the best that you could do still results in trauma. Sometimes the best that you could do still results in your children being wounded from you. Not because you meant to, but because your best was rooted in trauma, because your best was determined on your parents' best, and your parents were abusive, right? And I had to tell one of my sisters this maybe a couple of months ago, that when she said, my kids should be happy that he didn't get the same treatment that we got, because when we were coming up, we were getting beat, we were getting done dirty, we were getting this and getting that. And I had to remind her, I said, sis, don't raise your children based on the premise of our parents, because we didn't necessarily have good parents, right? If you measure your parenthood based on our parenthood, you will still abuse your child, because you shouldn't be comparing yourself to parents who abused you. Right? You shouldn't be saying, oh, well, my kids got it better than I had it because I was getting beat every day, but you verbally abused them, right? If you're going to measure yourself up against any other parent, it should be the ones who you know are really 5-star parents, slow to anger, very patient, talk to their kids, have relationships with them, but do not measure your parenting to your parents' parenting, especially if your parents were abusive, because you will end up passing down abuse to your children based on the premise of saying, hey, at least you didn't get the upbringing that I got. But I'm saying all of this to say,
I'm gonna pause it. I'll pause it. So I was thinking, because some people, it's I don't know. I what she's saying is that whenever a child is not talking to their parent, it's majority of it is that it's the parent's fault for that. I would say I think that a lot of children do have to go through a stage of learning their own identity apart from their parent, because a lot of parents, they have expectations of you as a child. So in some cases, some people feel as though there was just so much pressure. Also, that tends to happen when people get married as well. Like, once you're about to get married, the parents feel like they're losing you. Like, the mom feels like she's losing her son, or the mom feels like she's losing her daughter, or vice versa, the father does. And their identity was really wrapped up in being a parent. And so certain situations that happen in life, it will really bring out, I wouldn't even say like abuse. Sometimes they just feel like they're going to lose you, so they become very controlling. And it just so happens that certain seasons in our life can really, those things end up happening and coming out. And you have to kind of know, contact or distance yourself, not because of necessarily your parent is like, oh, just this abusive, bad parent. Because I understand some parents saying, I tried the best I could. I think that some situations are seasonal, where they feel like they're losing their child in somewhere in there. We're humans. When we feel like we're losing something that meant so much to us, that we love so deeply, it's by our like natural instincts to want to control it, to keep it. But then in other cases, you really did deal with a very narcissistic parent that's like, never validated you, was verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, and so on. So I think that it's case by case. But that was just like my opinion and my thought with that. Because just even coaching, like there are people that come to me who that didn't happen until they got married. And then their parents are feeling like, I don't have as much access to you. And they get now possessive and mean and cruel to the spouse and all of those things. So that's why that was my opinion on that.
All right.
just because you raised your kids didn't mean you established a relationship with them. I'm also saying that when you meet a person who doesn't necessarily have a close relationship with their parents, it's not because they didn't want to. It's not because they did something wrong. It's not because something is wrong with that person. 9 times out of 10, they've tried to foster healthy relationships with their parents, but for whatever reason, it failed. Maybe the parents are in a state of arrested development. Maybe the parents won't take accountability. Maybe the parents continue to abuse, manipulate, mistreat. Maybe there's no rekindling. Maybe it's just too far gone to forgiveness. For me, It's not that I don't have a relationship with my parents. I just fully understand that in order to have a relationship with them, it would have to be rooted in a trauma bond. It would have to be rooted in me laying down my personal boundaries and saying, hey, I'm going to keep on forcing this relationship. So now I have both of my parents in my life, but I don't necessarily have a relationship with them. It is as much as, hey, mom, how you doing? Hey, dad, how you doing? Good, good, good. Everybody good? Okay. I love you. Hope everything great. We'll talk soon. Happy birthday. I'm sending you some flowers, sending you a bouquet. I'm doing whatever, whatever, whatever. But as far as talking to you about my personal life and walking with me and being able to have parents to call on, parents at my events, or to support me through things, that does not exist for me. Not because I don't want it to, but because I have parents who have chosen their own path and to live their lives separately from their children, not to be involved with their children, not because their children didn't want to be involved with them, but because they never created the capacity to be involved with their children. Therefore, stop judging people whose parents are not around. You never know the circumstance or the situation.
I agree.
So, I just started seeing like these trends of people having the same kind of outcome, and I kind of pay attention to that because in the macro, I think there's a major shift happening right now where people have too much, well, not too much information. They have the right information to make better decisions now. And they're just doing what makes sense for their own mental health, taking ownership of their mental health versus waiting for somebody to tell you, hey, you got a problem. And I think the more we start sharing these stories, people can kind of put their lives in a better perspective to make the decision that says, hey, I'm taking ownership of my origins and my direction, because your origin is one thing, your direction is what you determine. So the I think a large part of your life you live doing what you want to do until you get disciplined enough to decide that I gotta do, the gotta do's have to be separated from the wanna do's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything that you want makes you feel good. Everything you gotta do makes you pause for a second and take a deep breath before you go do it. I gotta take out the trash. Oh, I gotta go work out. Oh, I gotta go to this appointment. I gotta go to therapy or whatever.
Yeah.
So but then after you experience that, your wants are more rewarding. So
I agree. I think,
so
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you got it.
No, I think when dealing with like a parent or a family, like, you have to also learn your own identity outside of them. So I think breaking off of the family is good for character development and understanding yourself. And I think it will, like I said, bring out a lot of in them where their identity was really wrapped up in the child. And that's like, where they start to, they don't take accountability, they're not taking ownership, they're getting controlling, possessive, all these things, and it's feeling very suffocating. And so I think parents and children need to go through sometimes some of these cases, they need to go through a season of learning how to be part from the parent. Why I say this too is I'm thinking about like the son as well that's with the narcissistic enabling mother, and in order for him to ever break free from codependency on a woman and really learn his masculinity, he needs to go through a season of separation from her to really develop and have his own identity. So, and she needs to learn that her identity isn't wrapped up in her son loving him. So I think it holds each other accountable, both hold each other accountable when you're going through a season of like being apart from your parent. That's what I think.
How much of how much of your coaching and counseling that you provide, how many more men do you think deal with this than the women, or less?
Women deal with it far more. There was one male out of all the men that stood out as it's affected him, the narcissistic abuse from his mother, and he was struggling so hard with his emotions, almost like he was like the female. But majority of it comes from women struggling with their mothers. And And so I really think I see more men have a better understanding much quicker of how their mother or their father, or what they did or didn't have, really affected them, and they've done the work. And I see a lot more women struggling to understand themselves and how much their mother has impacted them and their emotions. It's like black and white, day and night. Like you can see the difference of how men process things. And I think it's by handling things more inwardly, where they're really like, they kind of shut down, but they really think back and have to sit back and evaluate all their emotions, is why they get to that place much quicker versus women. So, and I think it can affect both people. I just only seen one man really struggle with it and have it has struggled to do the work. It's mostly women that are really struggling. So,
yeah. Okay. I'm going to throw another video up here and keep you on your toes.
I'm out here doing my walk, and if you ask me, I have come to the conclusion that men are not lonely enough. Men aren't lonely enough for me. They're just not. Men are not lonely enough. Men need to be put in isolation. I think caution tape. I think warning labels. I think anything that a man has ever done, there should be a fact sheet that is attached to this man so you know what you're getting into. Men are not lonely enough. And as a woman, I firmly believe that if you want to maintain a certain amount of safety, the further you are from men, the safer you will be. There are so many examples of this, from social media to TikTok, different shows that people binge watch. I'm looking at Love Island. I am looking at Pop the Balloon. I am looking at the Man of the Year trend. I am looking at I Am Happier Now, that trend that's going on. I am looking at different shows like Nelly and Ashanti. What the hell is going on with Nelly? That's a whole different issue. How are you jealous of your child? Yeah? How are you not willing to help parent the very offspring that you brought into this earth? That's a whole nother issue. I'm looking at the Diddy trial. I'm looking at the Tyler Perry lawsuit. I am looking at just the most hideous and violent and villain-like and insidious and psychopathic behavior coming from men. And men wonder why there's a male loneliness epidemic. Who the fuck wants to deal with that shit? Y'all need counseling and isolation. Counseling and isolation. Because it's wild to me that people believe that they are going to find the love of their life if they wade through all of this crap. And ladies, I'm sorry. Does it require ego death? It does. You may not find the love of your life. You may not get the partner that you want. You may not have the male companionship that you seek. But I know for me as a woman, I would rather eat good food, have good friends, live a full life with fun, adventure, a good career, some pets, some land, maybe grow something, than sit around and ruin my mental health, my physical health, my financial health, chasing a fucking man. These dudes are princesses. Like, listen. Ladies, leave these men where they're at.
it's always like the women with the whatever this is
The symptom.
that are loud and hate men. So she sounds like just like multiple women that have that thing. So it could be vice versa. Everything that she's saying could be applied to her. I think not enough women are in have experienced what it's really like to really be in a survival situation. I think they're coddled so much to the point that they talk the way they talk and they act the way they act. If we were in if World War III starts, the dependency on men will rise. Your femininity will have to come in because you will need to depend on a man, and we will value them at much higher rates because we're not going to do what they do. If all men were wiped off, society would collapse because they are what build everything and make everything run and go. Anything that I've learned, to be honest, I know this is like a hot take, but I've learned from men, like emotional regulation. I've learned from like before when I was around women all the time and I was like running to feminism, I was running to women. I had BPD. I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, so always living in fear. I was moody, I hated my life, I was speaking like her, I was angry, and it wasn't until, like, I actually centered myself around men, and I submitted to my husband, and I just submitted to listening to men, having male leadership and everything, where it was wiped away completely. My mental health became like it was like I could see. So what she's saying is just like, you wouldn't even understand, we would all collapse, we would all hate each other, we'd all fight. Like, I just don't agree with anything she said. I think the women themselves, the fact that she's saying that, she's just living a very privileged life and doesn't understand how necessary they are. So I just hate whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of projection.
Mhm.
The ability to even voice complaint is by the grace of men. Like literally, men build the world in a fashion where you have the freedom to complain about the very people that create the technology for you to complain about men on.
Yes. That's
Like,
what's if they wanted to, if men decided we've had enough of you women talking bad about us, we have decided collectively to come together and we're going to actually now take away all of your rights of speech to they could do it. They literally could do it. So by force. So it's
yep,
out of their unconditional love that we're even she gets to speak the way she is speaking because they can take us back to how it was before actually men fought for feminism. That's why it went anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So these men that care about women fought for them. There was I will never forget where there were this video I had watched where he was talking about how there was a school for women out in the Middle East,
mhm,
and the American men were like defending it or whatever, and then they decided to leave, and there was like a terrorist group that was coming to bomb it, and they were like, hey, us men, we can just leave, and the women can't defend themselves. Like, they cannot defend themselves. So once the men left the school to defend it, it was gone. You don't get an education. So it's by men protecting women that we even have the safe space to get to where we're going. So it's like in an instant, if they decide they don't want to protect us anymore, they've had enough of us, it could be gone. And I just think there's a lack of appreciation for everything, for what men have brought to us. It's crazy.
I appreciate you saying that because how do you think, from your point of view, um, do we get back to a space where women can openly appreciate men without women shouting down those women that actually value men? Because not every man is unfaithful, undisciplined. There are some well-meaning people out here in general, because there's so many ways that things could go, just like you described from a chaos theory perspective. But like, what do you think women need to do in order to balance out this ongoing gender war, so to speak, that's happening all over social media?
Man, you know what? I have been trying to think about that for the longest. It's almost like, does a war need to happen for us to
Hmm.
for a lot of this stuff to die out? You know what I'm saying? I'm an extremist here with things. I don't know how much I can say this on like a
No,
public.
no, be as extreme as you want because this is beyond the algorithm, so
You know how like with evolution, like the weaklings have to die out. I almost
yeah.
feel like we need like a war where all of this stuff, like bombs happen and stuff, and only the strongest survive. That literally the women that know how to just like submit to the man and the strongest of men survive it. Where the woman gets on board and understands like the role and position she needs to be in, and the man, he's out there fighting, protecting, and sacrificing, and those
Mhm.
people survive because they're actually in their order, and all the other people, the women, the feminists that think I'm strong, don't need no man. I mean, you're the first to go because you don't have nobody protecting you and shielding you at the front door. So that's what I think. Like, I'm an extremist with this. It's like something big has to happen where it like shocks us back almost into your actual primal instincts. Because this
Yeah,
is not, this is just,
it's not sustainable. I've been a proponent of that as well, because like beyond the algorithm is about touching grass, really dealing with reality as it is, and not just your emotional dump offs that you use social media for. Because yeah, I get it, it's a place to vent, but it also reveals the fact that you probably need to go to therapy. You probably need to see, you probably need to be around people that have actually experienced some level of real oppression, and realize that by grace of men, that you have the ability to air out grievances, because there are places out here that do not afford women that opportunity. And as a former service member, I've worked in places where patriarchy is a real thing, which most of the world still operates on. It's only in the Western world where you see conversations like this that allows you to openly, castrate men and emasculate your sons, and they tell they're way more comfortable with turning the sons into princesses than anything, So
yes.
now it's gotten
And
to the point,
as a mother,
yeah, and it's gotten to the point where um I I think that the only men that women will listen to are the ones that wear a dress. So when it comes down to discussing which men they want to hear anything from, whether it comes down to what they wear or whatever. But like, I got a video I'm gonna play now.
Hello everyone. So
This lady is in Iran, and I saw a lot of conversation when Iran was a big hot topic. It still is. When it was pertaining to, a lot of black women were saying they feel like women do in Iran. And I'm like, interesting. So I found this. So let's check it out.
Hello everyone. So this video is for the people who are backing up Iran right now, mostly Democrats, that they are supporting Iran right now. So I want to go over a few rules and laws in Iran about women. Basically, it's everything against what Democrats believe. So if you're a woman in Iran, they see you as a half a brain. So you don't have the full brain. So let's say if you witnessed a murder and you're a woman and you want to go to the court and say that you witnessed a murder, there should be 3 women. So your witness, like your words, will be approved in the court. Versus if it's a man and it witnessed a murder, only 1 man is enough. Why? Because they say women have half a brain. If you're a woman in Iran, you have kids and you want to divorce, you only can have that child until 7 years. After 7 years, your child is for your husband, and he can come and take the child away from you, and you might never ever see your child again. Or if he doesn't want to, he can leave this child with you, and there is nothing that you can do about it. If you're a woman in Iran and you want to divorce,
say again,
real quick. So one thing I'm gonna say this, controversial, but what she's saying, that is real true oppression. But what is interesting to me is how women have all of our rights, and what we have done with them have proven that we're not the brightest tool in the toolbox, right? Because Kamala Harris was running for presidency, and she has shown more reasons why she would fail America and be the worst president ever. And women were voting for her just because they were told by other women to do it. And nobody was thinking, like, people were walking out on the street interviewing these women who are going to vote for Kamala Harris, and they just said, well, she's just a Black woman. And they would have a long list of reasons why she's not qualified to do this, and it didn't matter to them. So do I think that women have half a brain, no. But do I think that with all of our privileges, we're majority of women, I'm not saying there's really, really, really smart women, wise women. I'm just saying that the majority voters for Kamala Harris were women. So it's giving not making the best decisions. You know what I'm saying? Controversial. Just
Yep.
saying, you know what? I don't think we should be voting because clearly women have shown they don't vote well. The only women that are voting based off of like more logic have husbands that taught them this is what we believe in. This is what we're going to do. And so they just more so added to his vote, like he voted, she added to it. And so, yeah, that's my opinion. Go ahead.
Husband, oh, you have to go through hell. But if your husband wants to divorce you, it's super easy for them. If you're a woman in Iran and you're being beaten up by your husband, and me as your neighbor call the police and say, my neighbor is, hitting his wife to death, police will do nothing. They will say, well, it's a family matter and it is his wife. So basically, a wife for a man is like an object, just like they bought a car or something. So they will not interfere, and they will say that it's their personal problem, it's not our problem. If you're a woman in Iran and you want to travel out of country, you have to have the approval from your father if you're single, or your brother if you don't have a father. If you're married, you have to have the approval from your husband. So basically, your husband has to sign a paper that gives you the permission to leave the country. And let's say your husband said you can't keep the kid. Until that kid is 18 years old, you have no right over that kid. Basically, if you want to leave the country, the kid cannot leave the country unless the father approves it and give the permission. If you're a woman in Iran, you can never become a judge, because they say women decide with their emotions, so they cannot be a good judge. If you're a woman and you walk into your home and you see your husband with another woman and you get mad and you kill them, you will be hanged. But if you're a man, you walked in a room and get your husband with another man, you can kill both of them and nothing's gonna happen to you. In Iran, you will be hanged if you kill someone. That's the punishment. But if you're a woman and you kill someone and your punishment is hanging, but you are virgin, they will first rape you before they hang you. I know that you can't even put this in your imagination, but that is true. Because in Islam, you cannot hang a virgin woman. In Iran, if a woman does not want to sleep with the husband and have sex, and the husband basically force you and kind of rape you, actually it does not count as a rape. So your husband can basically force you to have sex and there is nothing that you can do about it. In Iran, a woman cannot sing. No man can hear your voice singing. In Iran, if you're a woman and you get raped, do you know what's the first thing that they ask you? What did you do that they raped you? As a woman in Iran, we get sexually assaulted every day. Me, myself, I've been in Iran for 27 years. I've been sexually assaulted every day. Not by raping, but you walking in the street, they will touch your butt. They will touch you. They will say nasty things in your ear. You're not safe anywhere. You sit in taxi, a man next to you, they will touch you. There is nothing you can do really about it. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of choosing your sexuality, forget about it. You want to be a bisexual, you want to be gay, you want to be lesbian in Iran, forget about it. You can be, but there's going to be consequences for that, and you better not be caught. And this was just a very, very small amount of the things that's going on in Iran against women. So next time that any person that lives in Europe and in America and they want to support Iran's government, just think about all this, and shame on you if you do.
Yeah, that's true oppression. Like that's real oppression for women. And I know that like it's different. Like she was talking about in Islam, like what they believe, you know, and so in like a Christian nation, um, the husband, it talks about in the Bible that if you're cruel to your wife, you know, God won't hear your prayers and stuff like that. I mean, I'm framing it, I'm
Of course.
paraphrasing it, but it's both sacrificial on each end. So where this is like true oppression, and I really genuinely think women don't understand how good we have it. And yeah, that's just my opinion on that. So
Yeah,
couple things. Go ahead.
yeah, I saw a lot of, black women comparing their lives in America to women in Iran, and not really understanding that, going back to the previous conversation where you were talking about, like, if all men decided to round, like, no more rights for nobody, that's what it would sound like. That's what it would
Mhm.
look like.
Yeah.
So it is by grace, that men decide, hey, we want to function in society, and we know we need women. Women have to have a lane to be in. And like, countries in like Iran are not going to have feminism. They're not going to have a woman's day. They're not going to have any of these things that are centered around uh, women in general. So when we start talking about like the room that men create, so women can even deal with their problems, like even coming back to like the no contact piece, what I started looking at was women are in such conflict with the reality that they want from the reality that actually exists, and their perceptions of their relationships with other people, and to include their mother, is all being thrown, women being thrown against each other, to the point where, like, going no contact now has opened up the dialogue of, are women now understanding why most men that have left their relationships, now they understand why their fathers left? Do you think that that is part of it too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, we even look at what mothers are doing, single mother households are doing, and create what they're creating. We look at, most rapists, which is crazy, right? Most rapists in prisons have come from a single mother household. And I truly believe, and I saw this video, that single mothers are the real threat to the children, because it's by the stepfathers that abuse the kids. So it's the
Yep.
men that the women are choosing that aren't the father that are abusing the kids. So who's really at the threat is the mother alone with the kids, because not only that, but just even her own emotions. If she's in pain, like, women struggle to suffer. I'm not talking about physical suffering and pain and labor, right? I'm talking about suffering mentally. They struggle a lot more with their emotions, handling that. And so it bleeds and it pours on to the kids. They get overstimulated quickly. I've watched fathers where the kids can be running around screaming, and they're just sitting there watching the game as if nothing's happening, probably because you know what I'm saying? Probably because they're used to dealing with women. So children, toddlers are no different to them, right? Yeah,
That's
no,
pretty accurate.
I said this, like, I'm around children now, like my niece and my best friend has a child, and they're toddlers. And I said, toddlers are women for men. It's
Yep.
toddlers are for women, the nagging wife for men. That's
Yep.
all. Like, it's just a toddler, no, 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 mommy, mommy, and they get overstimulated. I don't. This is so much. This is so much. How do you think your man feel? Like, when you, some women don't grow. I actually was observing the toddler. I'm like, some women actually still behave like this to this day, where they will literally have a full meltdown on the floor, crying, kicking, and screaming like a toddler when they feel like overstimulated or emotional, or you're about to leave them. Like the same thing I watch a toddler do. So it's almost like there was no growth from that stage into your adulthood. You stayed there, where men, like, that wasn't allowed. When you fell and you threw a fit and you got a whooping by your dad, or even a whooping by your mom, like, you're a boy, like, wipe your tears. Almost the girls need to hear that too. Like, what is you crying for? Like, you're good. Get up, you know?
Mhm.
So I definitely think that women are starting to, with the no contact. I mean, I don't know the self-awareness if they're actually observing, like, dang, I'm like my mother, and I'm doing that to my relationship and my man. I don't know if women have that level of self-awareness. I will say, like, I did for sure. I was like, stuff was like opening up my eyes, but sometimes narcissistic parents raise up narcissistic children. And so you're only going to think about you. You're not going to think about how you're affecting other people. That's what your parents doing. And so then they train you to think the same way, because you have to think about you so much, because they don't care about you. They care about them.
Yep.
So it leads on to the child, and now you're an adult. And so when you're in a relationship, you're still going to function that way. You're going to be functioning like, I'm still doing what's best for me. And I don't think people are still realizing the impact that has now on the next person. Right.
Yep.
So
yeah, there's a lot of alienation that takes place, and I'm watching it between the women, because the mother sometimes in most cases is the first bully
mm-hmm.
that a woman experiences as a child. They don't even get a chance to go get bullied by their peers, but it really just opens them up and makes them more susceptible to being bullied, because the desire to please the mother goes into the people pleasing behavior that they experience amongst their peer groups. So when you take a bunch of girls that have all been in the same type of experience with the same type of mother, and when they go to school with each other, how does that look? And the way that you just described a toddler, observing that is the same behavior over and over and over again. It never takes a moment off. It never takes a break. And it just keeps getting replicated into, relationships that are toxic with other women, because it's the same familiarity. So if, like, for instance, if you had a mother that didn't, if you can simulate a mother and a daughter situation where the child is unheard by the mother and bullied by the mother, then that daughter never has self-confidence, because the very image of who she is bullying her. Then she takes that into regular interactions with other women, because most women are going to be in proximity with other women, and from girls all the way up until they make some kind of separation and become a wife or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they never trusted their mother, the likelihood of them trusting other women is out the door too, because the representation of a woman that you're supposed to trust doesn't like you. So you go through life with these expanded self-confidence issues, and I can literally see it, and a lot of men can smell it on you. They can smell when you have a confidence issue and know where it comes from a lot of unhealthy competition, and that begins in the household, because it's a lot of women that have been bullied by their mothers based on nothing but their appearance. I've seen that firsthand. Like, don't you want to make yourself look prettier? I've seen mothers tell their daughters that, and how that trickles into the self-confidence issue, and how the women are competing with each other in unhealthy ways on social media. It's hard not to pay attention to at this point. It needs to be studied. So, and so that's when I started looking at it macro, like, okay, if these women are replicating the same type of torture, psychological torture, that they experience with their mothers online with other women that they don't even know, where's the source of this? Why would a person perceive the other woman's interaction with them as some negative interaction? Why do they even approach it with at a deficit already, not even assuming the best? They come into it with the worst mentality already.
Why though is you had to be a chameleon, because when you're dealing with a mother who will withdraw their love, or just emotional, just their love, I'll just say love, right? When they will withdraw from you like that, or stonewall you and stuff, whenever they disapproved of you, growing up, and usually the disapproval will even be like image, or if they don't feel loved by you. If you're a teenager or you're a young child and you're you know, not even giving them love or fulfillment or whatever, and you're just trying to be more independent and explore your own things, but they feel like their identity is wrapped up in being a mom or wrapped up in you loving me because you also owe me because I kept you, even though your father didn't want me. I kept you and I have you, so you have to pay me back for what I've done, right?
That's crazy.
This causes the child to then grow up having to be a chameleon where they're hyper vigilant, always observing other people if they have approved of them or not. And because you have a lack of understanding of yourself now and who you are, because your parent never gave you the space of independency to figure that out, that you only could be what they wanted you to be, you are now moving out of one. If I'm in a relationship with a female, I have a friendship with a female, and she doesn't approve of something, I could see that she's withdrawing from me and she's trying to take her love away from me. I either get really offended and defensive because it's reminding me of my childhood and when my mother did that, or okay, what did I do wrong and how can I be a chameleon so that I'm fake and I'm doing a lot of people pleasing behaviors to mold into whatever they want. And this is where it's very confusing because some girls, what they'll do is they'll say, you treated it like I was your man, like you needed me to always fulfill all your emotional needs. And I think that when you were starved all the time in your relationship with your mother, you get into relationships with these friendships that may start filling up these holes where you feel loved in them, and you're going to constantly want that validation from them because you were starved as a child. So I think there's a lot of elements, and I'm just kind of just shooting ideas, but yeah,
No, you're
rough.
cooking. No, you're cooking. Like the ability to see that and dissect it in like in a minute or two is because it happens so frequently, and it's been studied like internally by the women that have healed from it. Like even my wife just came up and she said she's talking about Estina. She so
Someone asked, what is a mother's love? Is it unconditional on my live
mhm.
too? And
It's very, very conditional in my opinion. It's very conditional in my opinion. But go ahead.
I actually this was the conversation I was having with the guy I did a live with before, is that men's love is more unconditional. It's going to be unconditional because they didn't have the child, like they didn't give birth. So they always are constantly building the relationship. Like from the moment they're born, they have to build.
That was great.
Right?
No, that was great because the psychological bond is what we have to, like, women have to create the space for the psychological bond to exist between the man and the woman and the child, because you already carry the child.
Mm-hmm.
You got a leg up, you got an advantage. My wife has a theory on this that she talked to me about. She put me on game all the time on some things about what men do not understand about women, because I think the greatest miseducation is us being miseducated about each other. So because if you can circulate, think about it, right? Racism, anything that ends in an ism, is usually rooted in negative projection without any proximity to the actual ism, meaning like if you're racist, right? How many people of the ethnicity that you can't stand are you actually around? Or are you just dealing with their tenets, their doctrine? And so you don't like the doctrine, so now I don't like you because you follow this doctrine, right? Well, it's the same thing. If you're not around healthy men, then you're going to be risk averse to them. And then you're being risk averse because you're not around them. You're going to develop an unhealthy insecurity about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like horses and zebras. I like saying that because they look similar in phenotype. They're somewhat related, but they're not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how often, because like going back, pivoting back to what you said about the psychological part of it, is that unconditionally, because we see you differently than you see us.
Mm.
Meaning like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because it's like, I know you're well-meaning. I can see where you're missing a level of protection and foresight, because women deal with the present and the past for a way different set of reasons than men do, because men deal with the present and the future.
Mm-hmm. You know why though? Well, my okay.
Go ahead.
I give you my observation.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like a scientist with this one, right?
Yeah, let's
So,
go ahead.
I used to watch my husband's cousin's Chihuahua, right? And I noticed that dogs, whenever she would give me the dog just wanted to be around me instantly, right? Just, get loved on and everything. And then I got some bunnies and I decided I wanted a pet. So I got some bunnies and I thought because they're all cute and they're fluffy and everything that they would want the same type of love. But actually, bunnies are quite mean and they're very defensive, right? And so I started to realize, like, why is that? And I would look it up on Google, like, can I do to build the bond? And it was because the dog is the predator, the bunnies are prey. So when you're dealing with the female who are the weaker vessel, they are by nature more negative, they can be very mean, and it's their defense mechanism to protect themselves, just like the bunny, because their exterior is softer, but because of that, they have to be extra aggressive to just try to like make a point, like I'm not to be played with. But the dogs, because they're like, they got sharp teeth, they can fight, they can bite, they know if they want to get into that mode, they win in, right? And
Yep.
so because of that, they're more loving and they're more like, and I see with like men will hold the door open, like be kind, like just more softer, nicer in general towards women because there's no threat there, right? So there's no potential threat. So I think the reason why the women stay in the present and the past is out of like protection, because same with the bunnies, their memory was sharp. If I did one thing to them that upsetted them, it would hold over for like 6 months before they finally started to the bunny would be nice to me again. You know what I'm saying? Yes, because you hurt me, they lock that in. And I was like, this is like women. And I made this like wonderful discovery of like, it's because we're the prey. That's what it is. The weaker vessel is going to feel more threatened by potential things. And so if you've hurt her in any way, that's why she holds a grudge. But for men, they don't, because they know that like they're strong. They're strong. They're tough. They got it. They're not as fragile. You're not a threat to me. You don't pose a threat, so.
I cannot, I never would have thought about that. Of course, going back to it, if you don't have experience with in an observational capacity of other things that kind of like living organisms that have to live and be either prey or predator, and that's literally the way men think, in that regard. It's like if I have the capacity to hurt you and I choose not to, it's because I actually like you.
Yeah.
Whereas like you make me mad, I'm like, okay, I have to process it, a lot different. But if I make you mad, it hits you way differently, so it gives more credence to, yeah, women are emotional creatures, of course. So if you put a bunch of those same emotional people around each other, it gets manifested a whole lot differently, and that's why like I've always looked at women and it's like, why don't women get along the way men get along with each other? And because most beefs start with the women in the family, and
looking for potential threats, and sometimes they'll create one that was never there. That's why. Men just spaces and they're calm and collected because they know, like I said, the predator. They know that until a actual threat poses itself, I'm good, I'm safe, I'm good. But for women, because you never know, you're always looking and scanning for one. So women go into these friendships and they self-sabotage them constantly.
Which goes directly into the next video.
Okay.
He said, I'm genuinely asking, how did you come up with this concept? It's nothing to come up with. Whether this is about Krishan Rock, Tia Kemp, the lady Giovanni J, whoever it's about, through my own observation, I have noticed black women are black women's biggest ops. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. That it doesn't take rocket science. No matter who is the example that I use, even in my own personal life, black women have always hated on me personally the most. In the workplace and walking down the street, it's always black women. And this is just a simple observation. This does not take rocket science. It's not that complicated to comprehend. It's just exactly what I said. I thought it was pretty simple, but if I had to explain it, I guess not. That's it. That's all. And again, like how black women, y'all love femininity, just not inside of a black woman. That's why our biggest creators in the black community are gay black men. Ramonte, bougie brown skin, all of them. Because y'all like the drama, y'all like the theatrics, only in feminine men. Feminine black men. People that y'all don't feel threatened by. But yeah, that's how I came up with it, through simple observation.
I agree. I agree with that.
Man, it's
that was deep.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think like maybe 3 years ago, longer than this. I think back in like maybe 2021, I started really paying this some attention and looking at the negative theatrics that go on between women, and I was like, man, women have no code. Like no baseline of communication that's based on healthy communication. It's all performative for the most part, you know. It's not done in good faith. And then now, fast forward 4 years later, this type of commentary is all on the internet, like where women are fed up with each other to the point where they're having this type of discussion, you know. And the thing is, it's like, it's not men doing it to women, it's women doing it to each other.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I've always said is everybody talks about they want the community to come together, right?
Yeah.
Or come together. That's like some utopian idea, because the reality is, if the women don't get along, then nothing works.
Mm-hmm.
Because how can I bring my spouse around? How can we, like, if we were in a setting where you had your spouse and my spouse were together, right? And you how can we guarantee security of our situation? Because the men are going to get along. You know, we're going to figure things out. We're not going to be on no confrontational stuff, but generally speaking, a lot of situations between spouses are performative amongst the women, but cool with the men. So if the women can't get along, then we don't really have a community.
Yeah.
And
that, you know what, I would just say to that, it really goes back to the main prompt. It's like, it's by their relationship with their mothers and the way they've taught to like love themselves is what matters. Because I know for me, like who I am, my identity and like I had to build this way though. I once was also lost in my identity. And that's why I understand the chameleon, like needing validation from others constantly, because you don't know yourself. But once you do, you also wouldn't even hang around women. You will not even spend time with women who do not align in your thinking. I've gone into spaces where it was a very liberal woman talking to me, and I knew immediately, I'm going to be nice and cordial, but I'm not going to spend any more time here. And that's just because I have my village. Like I have my tribe and my group that sharpens me and I sharpen them, and that's it, you know. And maybe we might disagree on some points, but we're all on the same path. We're all walking and have the same goals. And so it doesn't make sense to surround yourself with all these different people. I never trust also what women do. Like they'll say the term girl's girl. I'm a girl's girl. Some women aren't for me. Like, we're not going to agree, and I'm not going to choose you over choosing what is best for me. Like what is best for my family, what is best for what my goals and what I'm trying to do, because you might lead me to destruction. So or women that are in girls groups as well, like just like a random girls group, bring everyone together. I think having all these different opinions, all these different, and then we're all influenced by different things, and we all care about how we look or how other people see us and view us. I don't have time for that. So like I always tell women, just stick with your tribe of people. And I think men have that. I've learned that, like even my spouse, like the same people, like he is with the same people. He's not going to waste time with things that would influence him to like his own destruction, like going off a wrong path. Or, you know, I've witnessed, you know what I'm saying? Like I've witnessed men lock in with their group and that's it. So I've done the same. And I just really encourage women to do that too, instead of just trying to like put yourself in any group and with any friend and with any people, and you don't even like who you are at the end of the day being around that person. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. So I agree though too.
How would you encourage women that go no contact and into isolation, and they're ready to get back out, socialize, and actually cultivate relationships with people in healthy spaces, right? How do you suggest that they go about doing that?
One, I want to applaud them for doing the no contact. I do think that's a good thing. I've had to do that too. I went no contact with my mother for 3 years. Best thing I did, because in order to talk to me, she had to go to therapy, you know? And she really loved me and wanted a relationship with me. And so she had to spend time actually learning how to communicate with me before having access to doing that. And I loved her. After she healed, we've gotten better communication, everything. I really learned that by me doing that was holding her accountable. And just like it was done to me by my spouse. I mean, he went no contact with me. You know what I'm saying? We separation. And I needed that, though. It held me accountable that my mouth can actually cause me to lose relationships, and I need to feel that. So I want to first say that no contact is a really great form of saying I'm holding you accountable. That doesn't mean that I have anger in my heart that I'll never have a relationship with you again. It's just that in order to have access to me again, you need to go to therapy. And I need to see consistency in your behaviors, that you're not going to keep treating and acting the way you've done prior. So, and that's grace. That's great. So first, that's the first point. Second point is that when you're coming out of that isolation period, because you do need to form an identity of yourself, you need to learn yourself, you need to like regulate your own nervous system, learn your identity, have higher self-esteem, all of that. I would say if you're going to come out of that and you're going to speak to the parent again, you're going to speak to your mother again, that you still hold that same standard. I've seen people go into the isolation of no contact, and then once they come out, they end up getting right back wrapped up into the narcissistic emotional abuse. So do not let up on your boundaries with that person and hold them to the standard of, when you talk to me that way, bye, like cut immediately again. And I would do that consistently. I gave you a shot, you failed it, I'm out again. So we'll try again in 6 more months. I'll see.
Look,
yeah, your therapist isn't teaching you enough. So we're going to circle back. You can tell your therapist about that conversation and tell them what you just did and said, and we'll talk about it in 6 months. We'll see if you improved.
Tell the therapist what you did and see if the therapist approves of what you said and what you did. And that's part of the observation that that I talked about with when I was comparing the communication with men to communication with women, right? Because like I used to be in the Army. I used to study conflict, insurgency, I was an analyst for an intelligence analyst. So one of the things that you have to do in order to be able to target properly, you have to know the language. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't, if you want to market uh steak restaurants, right? You don't advertise chicken tenders.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know what the consumer likes. You have to know the language of the consumer, how they share and pass information along, like even down to content creation. The very reason that we're here because we're talking about the same topics. You know, we're just giving out different perspectives. And I know that the message has to come from the right source. And in order to do that, you have to first understand what is your threat, what is your opposition, right? And then you have to also look at what's going right and compare the two. The women that fit this behavior that we're talking about that creates the no contact situation, it comes from their communication with each other.
Yeah.
And because men aren't talking about no contact like that, it's like, oh, it's one and done. Like if you're disrespectful up to a certain point, we know that we can, you know what I'm saying, really hurt each other, you know. And once we commit to, once we go from making you an opponent to deciding that you're an enemy, it's a whole different ball game for us, you know.
Yeah.
But if you come in thinking that everyone's your enemy and you skip the opponent piece altogether, you know, meaning
Right.
like you're in that defense mode from the entire time. So yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that you need to go get some sort of routine therapy to understand like how much verbal abuse you really consumed, how much psychological abuse you really consumed,
Yeah.
because it's become your language.
Yeah.
It's become your dialect. It's so uh devoid of empathy that you think you can say anything and everybody else has to deal with it. And when I talk to like my female friends, my wife, or you know, they can relate to this conversation so well, and I'm like, men don't have any idea how much psychological oppression they've already that women experience from other women. I don't think they even have an idea of how much distrust women have for other women.
Yeah. I agree. I do agree. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I'm good. Like, go ahead with that right there, because like it's
No, that's great
we
stuff.
need because we need a woman to explain to men how deep this rabbit hole actually goes. Like, a lot of men are experiencing communication where the woman is having a conversation that's based off of how she feels. We get that part, but I don't think men really understand that the mindset that women have that give you this disrespect, this combative communication, that's how women communicate with each other from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'll add? I know this is like, yeah, I just can't care of like what people think, right? So what I'll say is to what this video is saying, Black women are Black women's biggest enemy. I've been in 2 physical fights, which is so crazy to even say that. I'm not a fighter, and both have been with Black women. And both of them have dealt with narcissistic abuse from their mothers. And so both the fights were from just comparison issues, jealousy issues, and everything. And it's even down to their own mother who constantly invalidated them. And so when now being in a friendship with someone who you might compare yourself to, compare the attention they get, the validation they get, and they're being starved of that, it causes this resentment and this anger, which is really needs to be projected back to the mother. You deal with that with your mother, but it is projected then into all of your other relationships and your friendships. So like for one, I was like 17 and we got into a physical fight, like, and it was because she was looking for like the validation of all these guys. We went to a party. She wanted to go to the party. I said yes because she really wanted to go. There were guys there. And I wanted to leave because it was 2 in the morning. I was like 17. I was like, it got to 2 in the morning. I was like, how much partying and being around these guys you need, right? And so I finally just said, I don't want to be here. I feel like you're a bad friend. Like, I feel like you're having me in situations that are dangerous and stuff. And so I, was leaving, and we ended up getting into a physical fight, and she like grabbed my hair, started hitting me and stuff. And you know what she said? She said, I've been wanted to do that. Like, I've been wanted to put my hands on you and beat you up. And I was like, she was like, you just think you're better than me, huh? And now that I'm older, and after having seen the relationship with her mother, because I ended up talking to her years later as a healed woman, where we had a conversation, she apologized, and she said, I didn't like me. And I'm realizing, like, even with that, what she was saying to me, there was a friendship that was happening where she was comparing the confidence that maybe I had, or just herself, to me all the time, because of the relationship with her mother, where she was never good enough to her mom. And so it does go that deep, and it does bleed into the relationships you have with with people, with the friendships, the women that you have. And Black women's biggest enemy is Black women. Yes, I've experienced it. Like, why are we mad at each other? Like, why is there this hate on hate crime? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of my storyline with that too. It starts with their mothers. Someone said it starts with their mothers. It starts with their mothers. Yeah.
Whew. Man, let me go to the comments for a second. So that's a great observation regarding the bunnies. It had me over here like, damn.
I know, right? That was a good one.
That's really good. Like, seriously. Then she also says, tell her to get out of my head. So you're helping some people confirm what they've always felt, That's what's important. I think that when this whole conversation that's been so popular, talking about accountability, I'm a firm proponent that for anything to be credible, it has to be rooted in discipline. So if you don't have any emotional discipline, you don't have any accountability. If you don't have any sexual discipline, you have no accountability. Generally speaking, those two behaviors go hand in hand with someone that you cannot trust altogether, just like that whole fight that you described. The lack of emotional discipline caused her to see you as an enemy, and when she didn't even like herself. That's an emotional dysfunction, right away. Then the sexual discipline piece is that it was rooted in getting attention from men, that's still tied to it. So we're very primitive, very, very primitive, like down to the point where you described the bunnies, right? With them operating off of negative energy because they're prey, because they're always worried about somebody trying to stack them up, because like they're not safe from the sky or the ground. Because a hawk could pick them up and go take them to a bird nest, or a fox or another creature that got bigger teeth can grab them up and run up off of them.
Exactly.
And so I think that
that's why they're always talking about worst case scenario. If you ever say you should not leave your marriage, they're like, what about abuse? What if it's like, why you're going to worst case scenario
every time
it doesn't even happen because you think like that? Like you're exactly what you just said. Like something big could happen and take you and swoop you up, and it's like funny because with my buddies, I'm like, how long do you have to live in the most comfortable freaking area ever and realize you're safe, and that's the frustration I think even men are dealing with. Like, I've done literally everything to show you I am trustworthy, and you're still combative, you're still not trusting, you're still this other man. And so there's a surrenderance that you have to do as a woman. There is a level of surrendering that you have to do as a woman, where you have to understand, like, the way you're living is self-sabotaging your own happiness at this point, like your mother did. So, and it will bleed onto your children too.
Man, that what you just said about trying to convince a woman that you've been living in a safe environment for an extended period of time. When are you going to get out of that mode? Because the shock to the nervous system that men experience when they're doing everything that they feel is the right way to set safe conditions for the woman that he's with,
Mhm.
it instantly makes him feel unappreciated.
Yeah.
Like, like when men say we're not appreciated, not respected, not valued, because it comes from that invalidation from that woman's anxiety.
Yep.
And I understand that people think that they have to be completely healed before they can be functional in a relationship. But sometimes I believe there's some people that are balanced enough and have enough emotional discipline to where they can objectively look at the way that they're communicating and say, you know what, this isn't helpful. Let me take this out of the lexicon. Let me remove some language. Stop tone policing the other person and stop and remove the thing that makes you hear the tone.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I think I will never forget, and this is where I've learned, and I, just to state this to add really, it's like, I will never forget that this is terrible to say, but I remember like, it had been years because when I was in the beginning of my marriage, I would put my hands on my husband. Like I would just like throw a hit or slap or whatever. It wasn't like I was a fighter. I couldn't like fight, but I would slap or something. And it had been like 2 years before I did that. And it was like a really rough argument. I think that was just really triggering me a lot. And I went and I slapped, right? And I'll never forget that, like, I felt so bad and so guilty. And I was like, oh, I've done like so good. And then I did that. And we didn't talk for like 2 days. Like we didn't really talk. And he came up to me and he took like almost accountability and ownership. Like as a man, there are things that I should have been doing that would have prevented that from ever happening. And that's when I knew that I should be taking accountability. Like if you can sit there and look at a situation, and this is why I would state, like, when it comes to cheating, when it comes to like people saying, oh, leave for emotional abuse and all this other stuff, always looking at yourself and taking accountability of like, did I do anything to bring this into the relationship? Like what can I change about me to better improve the relationship? And just seeing like that model to me, where somebody who like can clearly be like, we're done, like I'm out, be able to take accountability and ownership. It's just adding to what you're saying. It's like always taking accountability for where you're at, even if something is happening to you. So like even the girl that oh, 1 second, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So from the comments, Clifton Jones said, what do you do when you're afraid to confront your mother? We will get Jada onto that in a second. That's a good question though, because I think a lot of people, men and women, are really afraid of their mothers. I think that I personally believe until you can confront your mother the right way, and by the right way, not protecting her feelings, protecting yours, you're not going to have any healthy relationships until you address that in the right way. It's just can't happen, because you're going to still have some kind of psychological power over you, because that's just the way it works. And then when you get down to what it takes to overcome that, you're going to have to be willing to live and die with the outcomes, because she doesn't care about yours. She doesn't care about yours. So I think that if you look at the relationship to where you have to make that kind of decision or that kind of choice, look at it like this. If it was a romantic situation, and not comparing it to, we're just talking about the energy of the relationship. If it was a romantic relationship, would you stay in connection with anybody, friendship wise, any ship, a romantic relationship, a parental relationship, any type of relationship? Would you stay connected to someone who you were afraid to confront about an issue? And I think that that's really what it boils down to, because it's literally the same energy. So yeah.
Found
You
it, knock on the door. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta get it.
So Clifton Jones says, "What do you do when you're afraid to confront your mother? How would you address that?"
Well, I think that shows you're still wrapped up in the approval of her. So whether she rejects you or not, that's what you're afraid of. And I've actually had to learn how to, like, regardless of their response, knowing that it, like, bears good fruit what I'm doing and that it's my boundary. And any type of manipulation, because what you're really afraid of is the manipulation, the reaction, and you can't move off of it. Can't Your movements and what you do cannot be based off of another person's insecurities. Now you're walking on eggshells, and then you're just actually falling into avoidant behavior, avoidant attachment style is how people get that. It's like out of a fear of another person's like insecurities and what they're going to say, they're going to reject you. So something that now you need to evaluate in yourself that you've you're struggling with. So when I was dealing with that, right, like I would get on the phone, it seemed like back then when my mom was struggling with that, when we had that relationship, it seemed like she knew how to poke at my insecurities. Like she knew where to stab. And so that's where I was afraid of, mostly when I was afraid of confronting or having a conversation. But I had to realize that the reason why it's getting to me is because she knows where I'm insecure at. So I need to learn how to sharpen those things and feel very confident in my identity and what I've got going on. Um, and that's how I had to grow. I had to learn I cannot control the person's reactions, what they say, but I can control how I feel about it and how I feel about myself.
That's that emotional discipline piece that I talk about so much, because I think men, I think men have to have a constructive journey, to like there has to be, like, how women go to school and they get a syllabus, and they in college, they can knock that out, graduate and all that stuff. And, it is a clear path from start to finish of what they have to do in order to obtain whatever, credentials necessary to arrive at graduation, right? Well,
Mhm.
in life, men deal with obviously obstacles that are unique to them, and being able to vet a threat, because going back to the predator prey mindset, the just because you're a predator don't mean you can't be food either. So you still have the same awareness that like the bunny that you described, but you're prepared to defend yourself if it came down to it, because you have the capability to do so. So a lot of the times we have to interact with other capable people that do the same things that we do, and you have to be able to trust them. So that's why I got down into the discipline undisciplined thing. We have to identify character traits and behaviors quickly, just like you talked about when you're around, like liberal women, and if they do some things that don't align with, like what you are looking for characteristic wise and character wise, you automatically put the wall up. You know what to do. So
Mhm.
here we go. He said, I really don't want to take on the whole family. He said, there are 7 of us and no one wants to confront her and are against me doing it also.
I I think that what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm wrong with this person, but confronting is confronting of I've been suppressing all these emotions for so long, so now I'm gonna send you a message or I'm going to call you and I'm gonna tell you how I feel about you. I don't think you should move and operate out that way, right? Still refrain with your boundaries and keep it peaceful, but when they come to say personal attacks, you nip it in the bud right there. And you are very vocal about your boundary and you're very vocal of why you are having that boundary up. And if they don't respect it, then you're going to have to refrain from talking to them until they can acknowledge that what they said was wrong. And that's holding them accountable. What I've made the mistake of doing, and I think other people have made the mistake of doing, is that we've suppressed so long throughout our childhood and everything. And then we finally come to realize, like, this person's a narcissist and they've been abusing me all my childhood. And then you get on the phone and you just let them have it. They're not going to hear you. And so it is going to cause so much deflection. They're going to go call everybody. They are going to do that because it's a lot at once and they have a fragile ego. So what you have to do is, starting from this point now, recognizing what kind of mother you do have, is that if she does this, that, and the third, you are vocal. This is what you just did. I don't like it. Don't do it again, or else we're not going to have a conversation like moving forward. And that's how you start practicing your boundaries. And so that's what I want to say. And like I said, you don't want to fall into avoidant category, because this kind of sounds avoidance. It's like, I think I don't want to like deal with her. What avoidant people do, avoidant attachment would do, is like they avoid conflict altogether until they can't take it anymore. And then they'll send this long paragraph after years and years of abuse, letting out all that they feel and what you did to me in 2021 and 2023. And so that right there is going to be completely like an attack on them. You had to have learned how to, in this point in your adulthood, how to deal with those people accordingly and correctly, because that's also not the right way to handle it, in my opinion.
Yeah, because you still gotta, you still have to respect them, even if you don't feel respected or appreciated by them. If you want cooperation from that person, if you don't want cooperation from them, then you're gonna make the decision that puts distance between you. You're gonna amputate the situation. Like, hey, I'm done with it. If you feel like that needs to be done too, and it's safe for you psychologically, I think that's what needs to be done also.
Mm-hmm.
But going into it with this heightened, mindset that you're gonna get a result because of how you feel that day, you're actually doing exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
You-
that's real. You are now. You're doing what they do.
yeah, and they have in effect turned you into them. So
Mm-hmm.
because you can't practice the same behaviors that they have and expect a different outcome, because they're wired that way already. They it's ingrained in them. So you say, I stay away not to disrespect them, and I have cut them off. Yeah, I get it. I think that in the situation you're in, you let them come to you,
Yep, I agree. Let them come to you.
because you get the leverage back. This is like, men think like this. In a situation, let's just say, Jada, we have a conversation and you disrespect me. I'm not going to argue with you. Rule number 2 off accountable masculinity: we don't argue with women. I see the way that women communicate with each other, so there's no need to argue with you. There's nothing that a man can win in an argument with a woman. Nothing. It's just wasted. So I play it cool, keep it professional. Then the next time around, when an opportunity presents to show you an example of how I was treated by you before, then we have to put it up, and you're gonna have to take that into consideration. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, and
that's how I learned too. It's like, hey, remember when you said this to me, and then you don't like when you see on Instagram this woman doing this? Look at what you were doing just the same way, and it doesn't look cute, does it? And that's how you have to look, is like in the mirror, and as a reflection of like, you have to see someone else doing it sometimes, so that you're like, oh, do I act like that? That's
man, yeah, because what women in these situations do not like is when a person that doesn't even know your mother says, hey, you act like your mom. I guarantee your mom acts the same way that you do.
Mm.
And it's because it has to come from somewhere. Where did you get that reinforced expression? Who made you comfortable communicating like that? Because if men communicated with each other the way that you communicate with your mother, how long do you think we'll live?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why, like, I get on men very, very, very hard about, yo, you communicate like a woman. You act like you have your mother's last name. Like, that's exactly the way you have to frame it. Because if you don't tell them that I'm saying everything shy, you acting like a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Before they can actually get it. because you don't realize that the way that you communicate came from your mother. You can't replicate something you've never seen. If you've never seen man and woman engaged in healthy conversation and conflict resolution, if you haven't been around anything but women, there's no way that you can simulate how men are supposed to communicate with each other without in the background having a catty agenda in the way that you use your words.
Mm-hmm. Men wouldn't do that. You're gonna get punched in the face, and I think that there is a lack of discipline in women. It's like I'm watching like women that grow up with fathers. I had a father and I had a phenomenal stepdad. Oh, my stepdad was strict. Oh my goodness, I was so grateful for him. I mean, there was some stern, like, strict, like, don't do that, that he would do, and it was for protecting me. And so when I'm watching even other women grow up, and it helped me to recognize and choose well, by the way. You end up choosing the man just like what you grew up with. So my husband is the same way, like very stern and stuff. And you get wrapped up in like the feminism of women that don't have a man or a father, and they're like, that's not normal behavior. And so then you think in your head, wait, is it not normal behavior? Like, I thought this is, but then you come to realize, yes, it is. A man's supposed to be like the protector and the provider. What does that look like? If you're doing something where you're walking to your own destruction, they're going to say, don't do that. And they're going to be very vocal about that. So you understand the impact. If you do that, there's going to be consequences. And so I think women, when you watch women grow up with fathers, and I'm watching it even like right now with my niece, like she has a phenomenal dad that's the same exact way. It's good for them to understand that there's like consequences to, with the father, there's consequences, harsh consequences to your actions, the way you speak, the way you present yourself, the way you do this, that, right? And the third, women, when they're with emotional mothers that keep operating and just saying whatever they want to say, however they feel all the time, they grow up without any emotional discipline or discipline in general. That's what I'm dealing with when I'm coaching. I'm dealing with women. It's like, are you not afraid of saying that out loud? Like, are you not afraid? Like, there should be fear embedded in you. And with men, it's like there's fear. If I say this, I could get knocked out. If I act like this, I'm gonna get knocked out. And I see that with women, that like, you don't get knocked out by your daddy, but there was a little bit more strict sternness in the household for a woman, to where, okay, I understand, I don't want to go out and embarrass myself or embarrass my family or ruin my reputation, and this is that and third. But these women on Instagram, just like, they acting, even the one that you showed me with the bull thing, and she's got her boobies hanging out, bouncing while she's saying we don't need men, and they're objectifying us, or whatever she said. That's how she was acting like they are. Look at how you're acting and displaying yourself, and you don't think, there's no thought process, because you probably grew up with a mother who didn't think and train you up of like how to present yourself and how to actually get what you want. You want a man to respect you and treat you a certain way. Present yourself accordingly to have that. You have to earn everything. I think women today, I'm on a tangent. Women today, you understand, you do have to earn your way. Like, period. Men got that. They understand that. They have to earn the respect. They have to earn these things. It's so mind-boggling to me today with women. And I know I used to think like this, but it got snatched up real quick. Because how is it that you think that I am just going to move and operate where anything I want should just be given to me? It's a very privileged mindset. You're dressed like this, you're going to get this. If you want this, you have to earn this. How do you earn this? You dress a certain way, you perform a certain way, you talk a certain way, and you'll get that. You earned it. It's now your reward. She's getting sloppy results to where she's talking like that about men because she's performing sloppy. So,
yep. Reinforced communication, just it's a cyclic self-validation, and you want outcomes to reflect the way that you think in the subjective. That's like how you think. But in the objective, nobody sees you the way that you feel about yourself.
Yeah. You got to look at the results that are being given to you. That is the proof in the pudding. When you took a test, and it didn't matter if you said, I barred this, if it comes back an F, You failed. You're not smart. You're not bright. And so the results that you're getting should tell you, I'm not passing this test. I'm not getting the results I want. So I need to I need to study. I need to change. I need to appear different. I need to walk different. I need to move different. I need to go to a different school, not to the liberal arts, but to actually learn femininity and how to communicate and being a wife and a model. Like, you have to go to a different form of education because what you want is not being given to you. And these poor women are being trained up by their mothers to be very privileged, this very privileged mindset of, I can act however I want to act, I can speak however I want to speak, and I should be given loyalty, respect, all of this by a man. And it's just delusion. There's no logical nothing to that. And when there's a father present, he actually, a good father present, he would teach you that as a woman. Like, no, you know?
Case in point.
Case in point.
Unpopular opinion. I am fully convinced that a woman should have her father choose her man. I am truly convinced that a man of God should choose his daughter's husband. Women are not capable of choosing a good man. Women are too emotionally driven. Myself and other women that I know too many times have sat and chose a man we knew was no good for us because of our emotions. That's exactly why we need a father to be able to guide us and lead us to a righteous man, to a good man, regardless of how we feel as women. I am 100% convinced that the father is supposed to choose the man for the woman. If we look at divorce rates, 80% or more is initiated by women. It shows that women are having a hard time choosing a partner now that we've been granted all this freedom to choose our own partners, resulting in a lot of broken homes. Not only are we initiating the divorces, but the insane amount of women deciding to be with bad men because of our bodies telling us to do things, or our emotions telling us to do things. Living in sin will cause you to do and choose the wrong person. We are supposed to have order. Things are supposed to be done decently and in order. And I am 100% convinced that the men, our fathers, should give us over to marriage to a man of their choosing. Now, I know a lot of y'all going to automatically go to the extreme. I'm not talking about selling your daughter to a rich person just for the money to oppression. Some fathers actually cared about their daughters and made sure that their daughters would be happy. That's what I'm talking about. The good parts of it. I'm not saying that men should be able to abuse and enslave women, because I know a lot of y'all are finna come for me with such ridiculous extremes. I'm not talking about that. But if we just look at the fruit of what's going on all around us, women have not shown that we are capable of choosing a good man.
100% agree. I 100% agree. That's why, like, choosing someone, and especially, you will choose definitely what you're familiar with as well. And so I've noticed that women that have never had a man present, because like I said, me and my sister ended up marrying men that are the same, very introverted, don't really, that not a lot of words to say, just handle business, get it done, that's it. But that was our father in the house. Like, that's how he was. It was, you would never know if my stepfather had an emotional day. I would just call my father, because like, really, that's who he is. And you would never know if he was emotional or anything. He was just so well emotionally just great. Like, he could handle his emotions great. He could handle my mother great. He was great. And so, and he was present, and he loved being a family man. And so by instinct, we married the same type of men. Now, I've watched women who did not have a man present at all. They end up marrying very feminine men, because it's almost like growing up with their mother with all these emotions and stuff. They're so confused on how to choose a man. They date the narcissist. They actually date the narcissist, the performer, the very, like, I've never seen a man that was a performer and so emotionally expressive and been like, yep, that's a man. Like, no, that's a woman. And they date almost their mothers. Like, they date a man with very feminine qualities. And when I say I don't even want to say feminine. I'll say emotional, very emotional based. They're very performative. They're very expressive. And those men, you wonder why they need the validation of others. You get into a marriage with them, they're constantly cheating. They're still cheating on you. They were performative before you ever got into the relationship. Whenever you guys argued, they had big expressions every single time. Did you think he was going to be cool and collected and be able to lead and guide you? He was full of insecurities. And you date your mother. So that's my opinion.
Who date your mother is crazy.
You date and marry your mother, and because you don't want the man that's the cool, calm, collective, barely has any words to say. Why are we marrying men that we want to be their best friend? I don't want my man to be my bestie. Just guide, lead me, teach me, and do that. And I actually have to tell women that I'm coaching, because the woman will be like, he's not validating me. He's not supposed to be your bestie.
He's not supposed to validate you.
He's doing exactly what he needs to do. Protect, lead, guide, provide. Boom, that's it. Nowhere, especially the Christians, right? Nowhere in the Bible it says that he's supposed to be my best friend and I'm supposed to be feeling happy and emotionally good with this man. No. In fact, with my father in the house, that you think that was fun? Like, I knew I was going to get in trouble, but I knew he loved me, right? One time I got out the car on the street where it was a busy street, and I got out the car after he said, do not go out that side. And I still did it anyways. And I jumped out into traffic, and he snatched me up by my arm, and I was in big trouble. But I knew, first of all, I never did it again, but I knew it was out of love, and he was doing exactly what he needed to do. You need to feel like there's consequences. If you do that, you could have gotten killed. So you need to feel the impact of me when I discipline you, that I'm doing it because I love you. And that's what your husband is supposed to do. So your relationship sometimes actually shouldn't feel good. It shouldn't feel good. It should just be about protecting and providing, making sure you're good, you're straight, like you're healthy, we're on the right track. That's what love is. Love is also disciplining the person that you love. Love is also correcting the person you love. Love is also not criticizing. That's what women would say. Critiquing. Criticize. Yeah, they'll say you're criticizing me. Critiquing you because they're trying to make sure you don't make decisions that would hurt you or harm you. That's love. What women want is a best friend for a man that makes them feel good. That's not their role. And if you grew up with a father, you would know that. But because you grew up with your mother in the house and no father figure, and your mother always wanted emotional connection, she always wanted validation. She was performative. When every time you performed, for her, she validated and gave you love, and vice versa. And that was your guys' relationship. You end up dating someone the exact same way. Yep. And you don't understand what it's like to be with an actual man. And so when you get with that man, you think you're being criticized and abused, and you're not. You're not. Mm-hmm. You're being corrected and guided, and you're confused. So that's my tangent.
Look, the level of clarity that you just gave by dissecting what she said, fusing it with your anecdotal experience, and then looking at it from, what you've observed. It's so necessary to be able to give the other perspective, because oftentimes you'll hear people that's raised by a single parent say what they don't need. It's easy to say what you don't need when you never had it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's easy to say what you don't need when you never had it. But how can you go without something and then criticize the validity of having it? Because it's a completely different perspective, Mm-hmm. Because when you're operating like the bunny, with the bunny's mindset, I'm running with that right now.
The bunny.
Yeah, like you're definitely going to think that everybody's trying to control you. But men that care about you don't want to control you. They want you to be informed about the decisions that you're making, because you're confused. The people that think that way, they're conflating their mother's love with the conflict of a man's love, and they're putting those together, and they're saying, oh, you're just trying to control me. Like, no, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, no man wants to micromanage someone every day. Men want to have a linear path to predict what they're going to have going on. You know, as long as you're balanced emotionally and you can do for yourself independently, you know, like contain yourself, you don't need a man as an emotional support animal. That's beneficial to the man and the relationship, you know. And this level of validation on an emotional level that women are looking for, they're only going to get that from their mothers, and they're not even getting it from them. So the reality is that a lot of women are failing in relationships, in my opinion, because the reality that they believe exists is only in their head. It's the epitome. It's deeper than just saying you're delusional, right? What you're thinking should be happening is only going to take place in a Tyler Perry movie. That's entertainment is for the exception. Is the imagination is the exception. Can it happen in real life? It's possible. But is it probable based on the way that you were raised? Is it probable based on the way that your self-esteem was cultivated? You know, is it probable based on proximity to the people who are you around that's getting that same type of validation? That should signify to you that it probably is a far-reaching idea more than anything, versus a reality that is compatible with what you do every day. You know, if you push pallet jacks and drive trucks, the likelihood of having this person that's going to be as compassionate as somebody that comes out of a written novel and with every perfect answer is probably not going to exist.
Right.
Everything else that you're modeling, you know, like this version of validation that you think your significant other is supposed to give you, where are you getting it from? What's the source of it?
Yeah.
And
Also,
it is what you're doing every day. So
I think they should think more. Like, women express outwardly so much, and I think that sitting alone with yourself to think is very, very healthy. And I do it quite often. Like, I sit alone quite often just to think about things and think about my thoughts and why I feel this way. And I try to dissect everything, get to the root of everything first. And I think impulsivity of just like lashing out and just sharing everything you feel instantly with your partner and not taking thought is it shows low intelligence, very low intelligence. And I learned that about myself. I humbled myself. I was not that smart and not that bright to be that impulsive. It's very weak, like, mindset.
You can't be smart and impulsive at the same time, and especially like in expression, for real. You know, you can feel it, but if your significant other acted out the way that you feel like you need to act out, you wouldn't feel safe
at all.
No. We got one more video, and then we're gonna get out of here. Okay.
Perfect.
So every time I think I have us women figured out, one of y'all go and do some slick ass, weird ass, untrustworthy ass shit that further solidifies why men sometimes do the things they do to us. Now let me explain. So this past year or two, I've been really wanting genuine homegirls, right? I've been wanting friends, and preferably women, just because, you know, men, sometimes you don't know the intention. But shit, now I realize it's the same shit with women as well. So here's the deal. I'm really big on communication, right? And if I haven't spoken to you in a while, you leaving group chats and shit, and I'm thinking everything is cool. I check up on you, I text you, I make sure you straight, you know, how's the kids, how you doing, how you been, I ain't see you in a while, you know, all this other stuff. I'm not getting that same shit back in return, by the way. But I'm putting it out to you because you're a genuine friend that I want to make sure that that connection isn't lost, whatever you may be going through, right? So because I may be feeling away because I'm not really hearing from you, I'm not getting the same energy, fuck it. I'ma just be a real ass woman and I'ma say, hey, sis, is there an issue? Is there a problem? Did I offend? Are we okay? Is everything all right? Why haven't I seen you? Why haven't we hung out? Cool, you got shit to do on the weekends or any other, whatever, that's cool. But is something okay? Did I do something to offend? Do I need to do something differently? Are we good? And you respond by saying, oh no, we're good. Nothing's wrong. I just left the group chat because the notifications were bugging me. Knowing damn well you can turn off notifications, especially when everybody in the fucking group chat is iPhone. But I digress. I say, okay, just making sure. I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. I'm thinking everything cool, right? I check the next couple of days and why am I blocked on Instagram?
Oh. Good. I would never talk to that person again, but you're too mature. Yeah, I get that.
Didn't you just say that everything was cool? Didn't you just say that you wasn't offended? Everything's cool. Everything's good. You just busy on the weekends and shit? You don't know how to open up your mouth? Ain't you a mother? Don't you have kids? Aren't you grown? You don't know how to say, hey, I just need some space. I need time to myself, you know, I'm gonna unfriend you for a bit. I can take it. But to sit there and lie to my face and act like everything is cool and then block me because there might be some other shit going on that has nothing to do with me. That's how you do. And yes, before y'all get in the comments and be like, oh, you're so bothered. Yes, I'm emotional. I'm a woman. Yes. Just as emotional as I would be about a guy that I'm in a relationship with, that's how I look at my female friends as well too. This is a relationship. This is a sisterhood. Why can't we communicate? Because if I was your nigga, you would make sure you would communicate with me. If something was wrong, you would forgive me if I was a nigga. And that's what gets me about women. Y'all love to forgive men. But when it comes to y'all homegirls, it's, I'm done. I ain't got nothing to say to her. Let me move on. That man could have had a baby on you. He could have slept with your friend. He could have did anything. But y'all be so easy to forgive a dude, right? Y'all be so easy to forgive a dude. But when it comes to a woman, y'all can't give that type of grace. And that's what gets on my nerves about us women. This is what I cannot fucking stand. Besides the fact that we be lying to each other, which I already told you on my last video, I can't stand that shit. I can't stand women that lie to each other. So this is why I'm fucking triggered right now. This is why I had to make a video about this shit. I would say, oh, we got to do better, women. We got to do better. But y'all not. Y'all not. Y'all gonna continue to forgive men. And y'all gonna continue to show that y'all don't know how to be adults and be mean girls to other women. But you know what? Men can spot that shit. And you definitely not gonna be the type of woman that men want a wife. Because that's a red flag, my dear. That's a red flag. I just agree. I'm over the shit. I'm over it. I'm over trying to make female friends. I'm over trying to reach out. I'm fucking over it.
She's a very direct person. She's definitely going to, but based off her personality, she's going to tell you how it is. And those are actually the most loyal people, like when it comes to friendships, like the fact that she even reached out and stuff. I'm the same way. Like if I feel uncomfortable, I feel like a friendship's suffocating, or I feel like something's happening, I just write it out like, yo, this is how you're making me feel. And it's like up to them. Once again, that's an identity thing. It's like, if you reject what I just said, it's not my issue. If you accept what I said, yay, we get to grow. Like, or at least hear me out. We get to grow from this. And then that's when you really learn your friendships. If you can vocalize how you feel about something and the other person can sit back to listen and y'all grow from there, you're great. Like, great friendship. But that is petty, and like that lets you know how she is as not her, but the girl is going to be.
Yeah, because I agree with the way that she handled it. I think that women relationships fail because they don't embrace women like her.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the type of women that women should pay attention to if they have them in their friend circles already. Those are the ones that keep the order and the structure to, the integrity of the relationships that they cultivate with each other.
Exactly.
Like that right there. When I see that behavior, I know that she probably has a dad in her life.
Yep, I agreed. Yeah, I was thinking that. Yep. She reminds me of one of my best friends who actually just called me recently. And we had a conversation. We'd just be telling each other, like, you gotta, hey, make sure you're growing in this area. Make sure you're growing in that area. And she's like her, and she has a father in her life. And I agree. And I think that's why it's probably so confusing for her. What is this behavior? Because she probably has more of a secure attachment. So like, I've seen something, I've identified that it looks like you're withdrawing, and I'm going to communicate, open the door for you to communicate with me, even be willing to take whatever it is. Like, hey, I gotta, like, she has very secure attachment style. Like, if you need to unfriend me because you need the space, all of that is such like, she's structured, she's good, but just communicate what's going on. But instead there's this avoidancy that she's dealing with, and this childishness where it's like, girl, just let it out. Like, what's going on? But you know what? The girl probably came from a single mother household where you feel something, you suppress it. There's also a comparison issue. So she clearly got triggered, comparison, jealousy, whatever. And so she doesn't probably even feel safe enough to communicate it because, you know what I'm saying?
Because that between the mothers. Because of the tension between how she was raised with her mother. So she sees the potential blow up in this other woman that she's experienced with her mother in the past, which goes back to the whole no contact thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It ended up no contact,
Very weak communication, very poor communication. And I understand her anger, because if anybody's like that in my life at this point where I'm at, I'm never going to probably speak to you again. Like, unless you come to me and say, hey, like, I'm sorry, this is where I was at back then, and I've learned this and that. Cool, we can grow. But I wouldn't even care to entertain that, because it's like a toddler, it's a child. And I understand men who are like, don't want to deal with a woman like that. I get it. It's exhausting, it's draining.
Mm-hmm. So we're at the end of the show, and I greatly appreciate you showing up and, running down all of your analysis on stuff. Like, anything you want to leave us with before we get out of here?
No, I think this was just a really great conversation. I'm glad I was able to give you my bunny observation. I love sharing that observation I made with people. It feels like I did an experiment to see, like, social experiment or whatever. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. This was a good conversation for sure, and I'm excited for the next one.
Awesome. We out.
Bye-bye.